You on rolling? All righty. Good evening. Welcome to the June 7th regular meeting of your Board of Commissioners. And we appreciate those who are in attendance as well as watching at home. We appreciate that. Tonight, the invocation will be given by Pastor Kevin Donovan of the First Wesleyan Church in Eden, immediately followed by the Pledge of Allegiance given by Paula Rakestraw from our school board. So if you're able, please stand and remain standing. Mr. Donovan.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we just come to you today and we just give thanks to you for all the many blessings you give us in our lives each day. Father, we thank you for our county. Lord, we thank you for how you continue to bless our county and guide and direct us, Lord. And we just pray for the leadership of our county, that you'd be with our county commissioners, all the staff, Father, of the county, and Lord, that you just continue to guide and direct us, Lord, and direct them, Father, as they serve you. Lord, may we just continue to grow and prosper in this county, Lord, and we just give you all the praise for what you do for us. And Lord, we just ask your blessing upon this meeting tonight. Have your will and your way, and may you give each member of this council the wisdom needed, Lord, as they do the business for our county. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners work from an agenda. Agenda has been published for about a week now, and you see that before you. Gentlemen, are there any changes to our agenda?
Mr. Chair, as soon as I can lay my hands on it, we may need to make an adjustment if we could. Under new business to add the Mebane Bridge removal and force main relocation project, and also consideration of the Cardinal Innovation Via Health LME MCO options that will be under consideration. So I move approval with those adjustments.
A second.
There's a second and a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Very good. We do have an approved agenda. Our next item is a consent agenda. Now, our consent agenda, those items are non-controversial items and just regular routine. However, if anyone has any questions about those items, please contact Mr. Lance Metzler, our county manager, and he'll be glad to fill you in on the details of those items. With that being said, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
That being said, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. That's our consent agenda has been approved. The next item is public comment. And again, we have no one signed up for public comment tonight. So with that being said, we'll go to item 7, a public hearing on our fiscal year 2021-22 budget presented by our county manager, Mr. Metzler.
Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners, I appreciate you allowing me to present the public hearing for the 21-22 budget year. If I can get this working, hold on one second. Hold on, malfunction. There we go. Okay, this slide is for the benefit of the public. It reflects the budget process, starting with the budget preparation and forecasting, all the way to where we are today with the public hearing. This will be the 12th consecutive year with no county property tax rate increase. The total general fund budget is a little over $98.5 million, representing a 6.1% increase from the current year budget. This is a reduction of $628,000 from our original recommended budget. All funds, which include the general fund, enterprise funds, and other funds, total $145.7 million, and the value of a penny has increased by $22,700. Our current year ad valorem is $53.9 million, or an increase of 3%. The ad valorem is the largest discretionary revenue source for the county, consisting of real property, personal property, public utilities, and motor vehicles. Our second largest discretionary revenue source is the sales tax. The projected amount of sales tax is $11.9 million, which represents a 24% increase. This amount does not include the quarter-cent sales tax. There are two primary reasons for the increase. First, we were very conservative in projecting sales tax in our current budget year due to the unknown impact of COVID-19, and the other is a dramatic increase in online shopping that we anticipate continuing post-pandemic. The projected revenue for the quarter-cent sales tax is $2.256 million to be transferred to RCC. Expenditures, we received requests for 17.3 additional positions, but are only recommending 6.3 full-time positions, including making one part-time position full-time. And these positions are 4 detention officers, an environmental health specialist, community social services technician, and making a paralegal full-time from a part-time position. I'm recommending the elimination of 6.991 positions, which you can see on the screen. There's a net decrease of approximately 0.7 FTEs or full-time employees. The budget includes up to a 4% merit increase for all eligible employees, and it is a tiered performance system. This system is set up to reward high performers and to encourage others to improve their performance. The impact is $455,000 next year. And I'm also recommending continuation of the 1/3 study we started last year, which is estimated to cost $400,000. Our health insurance is a major budget pressure this year, driven by the increase in high-cost claimants. The total health insurance fund increased $3.2 million. We're taking a variety of steps to attempt to address some of these issues by increasing charges for additional coverages, using CARE Act's money to pay for COVID claims, and applying $1 million in health insurance fund balance. We feel this is an anomaly year, but if it's not, then we need to look at a plan of design changes and contributions from staff, because we can't keep this up. Here is a brief slide of counties that answered our query that we benchmarked against other counties. We're contributing more than most and recommending to gradually increase the employees' contribution. It's not uncommon for counties, cities, and towns to subsidize some dependent care, but not to the extent we have in the past. Moving on to capital improvement, the recommended budget includes approximately $1.9 million in projects from the new CIP. This includes 9 major projects that you can see on the screen. As part of the budget adoption process, I'm requesting that you all adopt the separate 5-year capital improvement plan that you all have been provided in the past. Other significant capital expenditures are 2 ambulances, 1 remount, and 1 new, 8 sheriff office vehicles, 2 social services vehicles, and 1 public health vehicle. And from the landfill capital expenditure, recommend purchasing a water truck and transfer $850,000 to a new capital reserve fund for future expenses for a new bulldozer and the construction of Cell 5. The Board of Education requested no increase in current expense allocation and an 844% increase in capital outlay. The recommended budget maintains the current year appropriation for current expense and capital outlay. They will have approximately $4.1 million in their capital fund balance at the end of the year unless they spend some funds this year. The community college requested an 8.6% increase in current expense and 33% increase in capital outlay. The recommended budget maintains a current expense at the current year's appropriation and fully funds the capital request. Just to reiterate that I mentioned earlier, the quarter-cent sales tax equates to $2.56 million and is transferred to the community college as well. This last slide illustrates some of the changes that were made from my original budget to what's presented tonight. I'll hold that for a second. And then finally, the next steps are to open for public hearing and then adopt the budget ordinance. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Manager. We appreciate that. Well, we'll open a public hearing next, and then we'll take questions from the commissioners at that time. So that being said, the public hearing is now open, and let's see we have no one signed up to speak for a public hearing. And is anyone interested in speaking with regards to this? No hands raised, so we will close the public hearing at this point. Gentlemen, are there any questions for our manager? If there are no questions, would someone like to pose a motion? Take a motion or questions?
I'll be happy to make a motion to adopt the budget as presented for 21-22. I move we adopt the budget ordinance as presented, reflecting no change in the county property tax of 69 5/10 cents per 100 evaluation, and no changes in any fire district tax. I would also ask that we move to approve the 5-year capital improvement plan as presented in the budget work session on May 24th.
That being said, gentlemen, do we have a second?
I'll second that motion, and I will explain to the public, we did have a budget workshop, so we've hashed out a number of questions, and it's not a matter of the manager just coming up here and presenting something for 5 minutes and us adopting a large budget. It took quite a bit of time, and so I'll second that motion.
I can vouch for that.
I think we all can. We appreciate that. We do appreciate the effort that staff has gone through to produce this. Thank you, Lance. Thank you, Paul, and department heads. We appreciate that. You're right. This has been a lot of work in it, and we do appreciate that. That being said, we do have a motion. Any further discussion?
I, too, would just like to thank the county manager and his staff, because I know that we come back to him after that initial meeting and with some direction. And you did an excellent job on addressing some of the issues that was brought before you. And so I thank you for that.
And Mr. Chair, if I could echo what both Commissioner Berger and Commissioner Pirtle said, it is a long, tedious process that starts in January, and we get the board involved. And once they get involved, it's a very, very thorough evaluation of the budget, and it renders a good product at the very end for the public and for the staff members. So again, I appreciate the commissioners' willingness to spend time to go through the budget and spend a lot of long hours looking through the budget, a lot of wakeless nights, I guess, and making decisions for the best interest of the county.
Again, thank you. We appreciate that. Gentlemen, we've got a motion on the floor and a second. Any further comments? Anybody? Well, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That being said, we have an approved budget for this coming year. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, that takes us to our next item on the list, number 8. And Stacia Warren will be speaking tonight for Dan River, Riverkeeper, and Good Stewards of Rockingham County. Good evening. Thank you for being here.
Evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm short. I have to readjust it. Please excuse me. First, I'd like to thank you so much all for having me this evening. I'm speaking in place of Stephen Pulliam, our Dan Riverkeeper. I wear many hats in this community, including on your board for the Litter Prevention Advisory Committee. But tonight I am here speaking on behalf of Good Stewards of Rockingham. I'm requesting Rockingham County's support and partnership in an anti-litter program that educates and involves the public to stop the issues we and surrounding counties face with litter pollution. Rockingham County has endless tourism opportunities from our natural resources. Beyond issues of pollution to land and water, litter is a discouragement to economic development in both private and public sectors. Our litter issue is obvious, and this county has been a leader in educating its residents and encouraging better habits. In an effort to support this county and its municipalities, Good Stewards is launching a multi-phase campaign over the summer and fall of 2021 aimed entirely at stopping the litter. Excuse me. The program for which I am here tonight is titled Mythical Creatures of the Dan. I know it sounds kind of new agey, right? But it's not. Mythical Creatures of the Dan combines environmental causes with art, community, and education. Recovered litter will be transformed into a traveling 3D art exhibit of mythical creatures. These locally created sculptures of river beasts will be accompanied by creative writing which tells their creatures' stories and announces their desperate plea for us to stop the litter. Public teams, accompanied by local artists, will be led by good stewards on land and water to seek and remove all the most unsightly litter we can find. The local artists will have their pick of the litter, so to speak, to source supplies for their coming masterpiece sculpture. Good stewards will continue to involve youth during the creation of the sculptures through virtual check-ins and in-person workshops with our artists. Schools, civic clubs, businesses, and religious organizations will also be encouraged to take part to build their own creatures. When all the artwork is completed, Good Stewards and our partners will host a traveling exhibit across Rockingham County. Intentional locations will be planned in order to support local businesses and other organizations during this year of recovery. We're requesting a mere $500 from Rockingham County to assist with T-shirts for volunteers who help with litter recovery on land and rivers. All money for this campaign will be spent in Rockingham County at local businesses. Good Stewards has budgeted $1,000 towards this event and plans to request a match from Rockingham County Arts Council, who assisted with creating this plan, in order to pay a local artist. We foresee this program extending to surrounding counties as well, and would be grateful for our home to be the first county on the list. Again, we would greatly appreciate the funding request to be granted, but would love to have the county's involvement even more. If funding is not available at this time, we persist in our request to have a partner with Rockingham County. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Warren. Any questions? Gentlemen, any questions?
Just to comment, I think you covered this, and that's my understanding. Certainly, the schools are going to be included in the traveling exhibition. Is that correct?
Anybody who is willing and wanting to be included, we would love to have our youth engaged in this, absolutely.
Well, I think this board is particularly keen on what you're doing there, and we thank all of your efforts so far. My question would be, I believe we have funds in the enterprise.
Litter program.
Do we need a motion?
I would suggest that we submit this to the county manager and let him evaluate it, and then get back to the commissioners.
Is this something that do you feel would be advisable to bring before with the Litter Advisory Board as well?
Speak with our county manager. He can provide you with some guidance. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for your time, and have a blessed evening.
Thank you, Ms. Warren. We
Thank you.
appreciate that. Next item on our list is number 9, Paula Seamster, our Board of Elections Director.
Purpose, not for certain individuals.
Good evening, Chairman Hall and Commissioners. What I bring to you tonight is a budget amendment in the amount of $8,214 to finalize our security system with the Board of Elections. We have already installed a badge system, and this will actually install security cameras inside and outside of the Board of Elections office and the outside of the workshop. And the money that will be reimbursed to pay for these will come from the HAVA funds from the State Board of Elections. So I'm just here tonight to seek approval so we can move forward with the installation.
Let me ask a question for clarification to our manager. We just approved a budget for 2021-22. This request is to modify our current budget, 2020-2021.
That's correct. That would be the state, yes.
I didn't want anybody to get confused about that. So very good. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, any questions?
We got one.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Travis?
Thank you for coming forward. But was this request presented to your board for approval?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
And it has been approved unanimously, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner. Gentlemen, any further questions? Commissioner Richardson?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, gentlemen? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. We appreciate you being here, Ms. Seamster.
Thank you very much.
Next item, Pat Galloway, Director of Financial Services.
Good evening. What I have for you is a request to adopt a resolution that will create a capital administrative reserve fund. This ties into the CIP, five-year CIP plan you just adopted with the budget. This starts funding that. So the two requests are to adopt the resolution to create the fund, and the second one is to go ahead and approve a transfer for fiscal '21, the current budget year, of $4.5 million of general fund balance over to that capital reserve fund to fund future projects. That will be broken down into three categories: future public buildings, $2,799,000; general government equipment, $876,000; public safety equipment, $825,000. And as we've discussed during the budget discussions and with the CIP, this just puts the funds over in the reserve for these purposes. They cannot be spent until the board approves what they'll be spent on and moves them out of this fund. So these are just the holding categories for them. You guys have the ability to change up or move these categories as you need as the things come up in our plan.
Gentlemen, any questions? Just for clarification, what we're doing is reserving this money for future projects so it doesn't look unencumbered. We're just kind of encumbering that through the capital plan. Is that right? By setting this up?
We're setting this aside out of the general fund over into the capital reserve, which makes these funds now restricted for these purposes at this point in time. And then when the projects come up on the list that need to be funded, they'll come out. The '22 budget did include, what was the number, 1 million?
None.
Some of that $1.9 million that's coming out of in the '22 budget is actually some of this $4.5 million coming back over to the general fund for expenditures.
But this body has to approve transfers from that fund to the actual projects.
Absolutely.
Very good. Gentlemen, that being said, any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
Motions, or you need one?
Mr. Manager?
Just one, we're fine.
Make a motion to adopt a resolution establishing and maintaining Rockingham County Administrative Capital and approve the budget amendment to transfer $4.5 million available funds to from the general fund to the administrative capital reserve fund.
Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioners. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? That being said, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Ms. Galloway. Appreciate you being here. The next item takes us to Mr. Ronnie Tate, our Director of Engineering and Public Utilities.
Good evening, gentlemen. I've got one item for your consideration tonight, and it's a board request for the board to approve a water line extension on Newnham Road. Just for clarification, Newnham is off of 220. It's the road that our Red Birch water tank, 500,000 gallon water tank is on. The subdivision, as it's laid out right now, will have 75 homes. The estimated cost for running the water line is approximately $150,000. We're requesting that money come from the Office of State Budget Management Funds, and also for the board to approve for the county manager to approve change orders for this project up to $50,000 without board approval. And I'll be glad to try to answer any questions. You have the ROI sheet. I submitted to you the ROI for it's roughly about a year and a half.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Tate. Gentlemen, any questions? Commissioner Travis?
No, I was going to make a motion.
Any questions? Make your motion, Commissioner.
Make a motion to approve the water line construction on Newnham Road, estimated $150,000, and with the county manager making $50,000 in adjustments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. Gentlemen, we've got a motion and a second. Any questions or any discussion? All right, that being said, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. Appreciate that. And item 12, Mark McClintock, our tax administrator. Good evening, sir.
I'm going to ask some questions.
Yeah.
See it on mine. Can't see it on yours.
Sir. Come on up, somebody.
Well, it's going to be an important one.
Hey, what do you think about?
We're good. No problem.
We'll clean up rivers. I don't care.
Presentation is to inform the commissioners of the results from the reappraisal price quotes. As instructed at the last work session that we had in April, we've received RFP price quotes from companies, and also tonight we will ask the commissioners to select the date for the next reappraisal. I won't go over all the slides, but I've included a couple informational slides that were in the last work session that we did with the concerns of us staying with the 8-year cycle. One of the concerns is that right now our sales ratio is at 91.5%. If next year it was to drop below 85%, which is the relationship of the tax values to the market values, we would be forced to do a reappraisal in 3 years. Also in 2023, the 4th year of our current reappraisal, if we drop below 90% in sales ratios, we lose revenue equivalent to the percentage that we're under 100% with the public utilities, of which we have about $900 million in public utilities, which 10% is over $600,000. With the low sales ratios, as the market is rising above tax values, we have the potential for revenue loss and also sticker shock if we wait till 2027, which is our next scheduled reevaluation. I won't read all of these, but these are the unknowns that we discussed at our work session, where we don't know what the economy of the future is going to be in the next 2 to 3 years. If we see the current market price trends continue, we expect them to continue to rise above the tax values. We're not sure what the future impact will be on mortgage foreclosures from the COVID moratoriums. We're also looking at the supply and demand. Right now, the supply is very low, the demand is high. As contractors build to meet that, we expect that to increase our revenue, even though with high construction prices, we could still be substantially under the market price. We also are unsure of what future industrial development and the personal property we'll see from the projects that are in process already, like Peru. I've compiled a table that shows the 5 quotes that we received and from the companies that responded to our RFP. And this is a totally contracted reappraisal except for the services we would normally provide, the space, the computers to work with. One thing through this process is we want the best reappraisal product we can get to establish a baseline of property values for the county. We attempted to contact all the counties in our state listed in each RFP for each of these companies that we received for work performed in the last 10 years. We've provided that information to both the purchasing agent and Mr. Metzler. 3 companies were eliminated from consideration due to their services, references, and our price. The 2 remaining companies are Pioneer Appraisal and Vincent Valuations. Pioneer Appraisal quoted a full list and measure quote for $1,195,000 and a walk-around approach for $895,000. Vincent Valuations were quoted at $1,551,177. Both of these companies have performed reappraisals in the state of North Carolina. They work as consulting with other counties. They pick up new construction for various other counties. Piner is a smaller company. They have performed 2 reappraisals in their entirety across the state of smaller counties. The current reappraisal they're working on is for a county with 33,000 parcels. We have 53,748 parcels. They have a good reputation, good staff. Vincent Valuations is a larger company. He has excellent reputation and staff. He teaches educational courses for IAAO. He also does consulting and reappraising for other counties. He has performed 5 reappraisals in their entirety across the state, and one of those includes a county larger than us. Both of the counties are familiar with our software systems. The full list and measure, this is the list that I took from our last presentation in April. It is the premium. It is a list and measure of all structures, a visit to the property, an attempt to contact the taxpayer, and all of the other services required to perform an entire reevaluation for the county. The reason I'm showing both quotes is while I was concerned that Piner had not done a county as large as us, as I said, his references were great. Vincent Valuation has good references, but it is a $350,000 difference is why we're showing both.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes, sir.
McClintock. Are these contracts, will they be bonded?
Yes, sir.
Performance and payment bonds?
And in the contract, before we sign it, we'll make sure that all of the elements listed from our RFP are in the contract and reviewed.
Thank you. Carry on.
Piner Appraisal quoted a walk-around reappraisal, which is all the essential elements of a reappraisal, but it does not have a guaranteed contact with the taxpayer. They look for a discrepancy, and if they see one, they measure it. It's not the full list and measure. They said they could possibly do one by 2023, but did not recommend it. They suggested a 2024 even for the walk-around, and we suggest a 2024. I don't see how they could do a good product by 2023. They said they would try to do the best they could. As we consider these, we've already discussed the loss in revenue if we are equalized. 66 counties are currently equalized for railroad values, us being one, and 14 additional counties in the state are equalized with public utilities. 29 counties have received letters, 2 with a mandatory advancement of their reval because of sales ratio or COD. The others, a suggested reevaluation done because of their COD or ratios. 42 counties in the state are below 90% right now. We also did a random data sample of 390 improved properties, and we submitted this to the state. The state reviewed this and looked at the comparison of the actual data to the data that we supplied. We did good on our data selection, but the results indicated a minimum of a walk-around reappraisal, but a contact with all taxpayers. They did suggest a full list and measure should be considered and recommended. Since the reappraisals takes 2 to 3 years to perform, that's why we're suggesting a 2024. And I believe the chairman and the county manager met with the municipalities, the mayors, and the city and town managers, who all agreed that it would be in the best interest of the county to advance the reappraisal. Based on this, the tax department recommendation is the same that we suggested in April, that we look at passing a resolution to advance the next reappraisal of real property to 2024, and in consulting with county management, we recommend that we look at budgeting the funds to perform a full list and measure of all the real property to establish an accurate and uniform baseline of real property values. Tonight, if the the commissioners, with a consensus and direction, Mr. Morris can draw a resolution that can be put on the consent agenda for the next meeting, advancing the reevaluation if you decide to. We also ask to set aside those funds, or I can work with county management to budget for the next reappraisal. One of the things we would like to know is which of the type reappraisals the commissioners would prefer. Our suggestion is at least the list and measure. And as I've shown you, Piner appraisal, the references were fine. We talked to 11 counties, or the ones that contacted us back. We talked to 12 for Vincent Valuations. Either should perform a good reappraisal. The disparity in the price was such that the savings of 300 and some thousand with Piner could offset some of the equalization we could see in 2023 if the trends we see continue. While the future is unknown, based on our current information, that is our suggestion, and we're here tonight to ask for that guidance, to draw the resolution to advance the reappraisal, and to fund and contract with a company in the summer to start this.
Question for you, Mr. McClintock. The bids were public bids. They, I guess both parties now know the bids, and Piner is aware of the other numbers, and they have not withdrawn their bid. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. While not required, due to the amount of the contract, we worked through the purchasing agent, Amanda Crumpler. It was a sealed bid process. We opened those with me, Amanda, and Todd Hurst, the chief appraiser. After opening those, she sent the bids to each of the 5 companies, showing the entire bid table that I showed y'all.
With them being a smaller company, they've seen it, they're aware of it. The thing is fully bonded, performance and payment bonds, so the county would be protected, it appears, if there's an issue.
Yes, sir. Also, in the contract and RFP, we withhold 10% of the value of the contract to assure the quality, and that is not paid until the end. As we work through the contract process, we will make sure all the elements of our RFP are included. Then I will have to work through finance, of course, Mr. Metzler, and legal for those finer points to make sure we are protected.
Very good, thank you. Gentlemen, do we have any questions? Commissioner Richardson?
Just one. I heard what you said about the 11, 12 counties. You may not have this precisely, but I'd be interested on how accurate these reappraisals were in terms of how many complaints, how many reappraisals after the initial one were accomplished by these in comparing Vincent and Piner. Here, you follow me on it?
Yes, sir. I don't have those figures exactly. I did ask, and in our questions going back and forth, both of the quotes include handling the appeals. Piner has a great reputation of customer service, and they said that the taxpayers did like him. Ryan is very expert in it, but I could contact the counties back to get those numbers, but all were very pleased. Normally, if you're pleased, you're not being flooded with those appeals, and you're being able to settle them.
Exactly my point, and you have a comparison because we finished ours not that long ago. No, I don't think it's necessary to go back. I was thinking that would be one of the numbers that would have been brought to you in comparison.
We did ask about customer service with each of these, sir.
Very good, gentlemen. Any other questions?
So you need a motion, or you need just a head nod?
I think we need 2 things, if I understand correct. We need a decision on which option we're going to go with, either option 1, a full list and measure, or option 2 is the walk-around option.
Yes, sir.
Now, the full list and measure is the more detailed, which we've never had in, 20-some years?
Yes, sir. We have performed the walk-around, both using our staff and the last reappraisal using partially contracted. So the full list and measure would give us a baseline for the future, and we believe that is the best recommendation. And that's one reason we show this is the savings with Piner, could offset not only being equalized, but paid.
So if we do the full list and measure at our next reappraisal, then the next few appraisals, we could go 1 or 2 steps down to save money and then do the full list and measure again at some distant point in the future.
It's entirely possible, yes, sir.
Very good, very good. Mr. Pirtle?
That was my question. I know you said we did the last full list and measure approximately 20 years ago.
I believe so. I am not sure. I know that from 99 to present, it's been the walk-around approach, and I came in 97. So for a full list and measure, I'm not sure.
Could have been further.
It could be the 80s. There were a couple performed in the 80s.
Very good. Gentlemen, any questions? Commissioner?
I ain't got no questions. I'll just make a motion, recommend option one.
All right, very good. We have a motion for option one. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Very good, thank you. The next
Wait a
question,
minute, we still need another motion, right?
yeah, the next question before us is when do we want to do this reappraisal? And if I understand correct, you're recommending that we do this in 2024?
Yes, sir. Even though we can be equalized in 23, to get the best product possible, I think we need 24.
Very good. Gentlemen, any questions or a motion? Either one.
I move approval for the 24 recommendation of our tax assessor.
I second it.
Very good. Gentlemen, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Nothing heard? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Question, post-motion there. I guess we indirectly chose Piner at this point since Vincent didn't put a bid in for the walk-around type. Is that correct?
They do not perform the walk-around. Vincent Evaluations prefers the list and measure. And at this point, we were leaning towards Piner,
Yes.
and if that is acceptable.
Do we need a motion to
Yes, sir.
accept Piner?
I can make that motion to accept Piner's appraisal.
Thank you, Commissioner Travis. Is there a second? And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Appreciate that clarification as well.
Before you go, at least on my part, I appreciate the thoroughness of Mark McClintock and his office and coordination that was done with the county manager's office. This is a fairly brief discussion of a extensive, meticulous sort of investigation, and I think you brought all the data that we could ask for.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, we appreciate that, and County Manager for getting this pulled together so quickly. Thank you.
Yep. Mark did
One
an
quick
excellent
thing.
job. Very, very, very thorough.
One quick thing.
Commissioner Travis?
Mark, with us having these people going around knocking on people's doors and leaving door hangers, is there any way we can use our calling system to let the citizens know, be prepared, they might show up?
We could. I'd have to check to see how many our calling system has. The tax department, we actually have our own call system, which does allow for quite a few.
I mean, just give the citizens a heads up so they won't be so surprised about who's this guy on my property.
Certainly doable if we have those phone numbers. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Very good. Commissioner Birtle?
Thank you, Mark. And I also think it would be advantageous if we utilized Mabel in our PEG channel to talk about why we're doing this now and the ramifications if we put this off for 8 years. And that just because we're doing it doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a tax increase. I know people hear revals and that's the first thing that pops through their mind, and that is not the case. The case is here is we're trying to protect the tax dollar and not lose it as a result of not taking appropriate action.
Dr. Scott.
Thank you. Well, and we had items added tonight under new business. Mr. Manager, would you present those to us?
Sure, I'll handle the Mebane Bridge, and I've got Ms. Farrell here to handle the Cardinal Innovations one. The Mebane Bridge, the Department of Transportation and the county have been meeting for several years. I'd probably say, Ronnie, 5, 6, 7 years on their thought process of demolishing the bridge. It's their concern is that it's in bad condition and it's a liability to DOT. The county has a 10-inch sewer force main on there. It was attached up to the bridge, I think, in 1999. We had a meeting with DOT just last week, May 27th, and their subcontractors to talk about the plans of demolishing the bridge and relocating the sewer line. DOT agreed that the state would relocate the 10-inch sewer force main on behalf of the county. And I've included a resolution for your consideration to submit to the state, and I'm asking that you all consider that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Gentlemen, any questions?
I'll make a motion for approval of the resolution support Mebane Bridge removal and force main relocation.
Second.
I'll second it.
Commissioners, gentlemen, any further discussion?
I just think it's, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Lance and DOT and their resolve in helping us address an issue that's been there for quite some time, and that they're stepping up, and all we're doing is giving them our support in them taking the action, and I do appreciate that, and the relocation of that force main.
Well,
Savings to the Rockingham County taxpayer.
That's right.
That's not really all of the information. DOT, there's some contingency funds that, but for the legislative delegation, we would be responsible for 25% of that. So it will be 100% covered by state funds.
Wonderful, wonderful.
That's correct. Thank you.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. That resolution is duly noted. Next, we have Ms. Farrell.
Jennifer.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you tonight?
Thank you.
So, June 1st, Cardinal Innovations announced a merger with Via Health. And this merger was announced to help Cardinal kind of stabilize in the catchment area. Mecklenburg and Forsyth counties had announced to the DHHS that they were going to be disengaging from the Cardinal network. That evening, the Health and Human Services Board met. We had a discussion. Part of that discussion was exploring disengagement, kind of clarifying what our opportunities are here. So kind of pursuing on that, the next day, the North Carolina Association of County Departments of Social Services received a memo from Dave Richards, who's the Deputy Secretary for the Division of Health Benefits, saying that after announcing the merger, they're going to give us some time to kind of ascertain what counties want to do. So not necessarily having to make very quick decisions about disengagement, if that's what was going to be, their decision. On June 4th, Secretary Cohen, along with Assistant Secretary Dave Richards, had a meeting with the county managers via Zoom to talk about the Cardinal catchment area and that process of the merger with Via. A lot of details are not known at this time. It's just very preliminary. But to kind of talk with the counties and say that we've got an opportunity here to kind of explore our options and kind of determine what's going to be a benefit for our communities or our counties. They both stated that this merger with Via is not our only option, that we do have an opportunity to look at other LME MCOs in the state. However, we've got a very short window, and so we've got to make some decisions. And not necessarily by the end of this month, but kind of know what direction we're going by the end of this month. We know that behavioral health services have been very challenging for our community, in particular our law enforcement agencies, our hospital emergency departments, our schools, and even our local government departments like social services. We've had some very serious challenges in helping our citizens access services. So in spite of all of that, I think what we are recommending at this time is to review our options carefully, not to make a quick decision, but to kind of make a way for us to go and talk with different LME MCOs and see what is going to be the best option for Rockingham County. So maybe the possibility of writing a letter to Secretary Cohen and saying, we're not saying we want to do disengagement, but that may be a possibility depending on if we have an LME MCO that may meet the needs of Rockingham County better than what the VIA Cardinal merger will do for us. Now, in saying that, I believe we have a meeting tomorrow morning with VIA where we're going to get more information. So a lot of questions that I have already listed out, a lot of the concerns that we've had, I've already started creating a long list. Also, looking at what are some of the things that are unique to our county that we want to continue to have. We have some very good pilots that we've started with Cardinal that have been very beneficial. Do we want to continue with those? And if we do continue with those, are those things that we can do in another LME MCO catchment area, or is that only going to be unique for the Cardinal VIA merger? So, no absolute decisions for tonight. I wanted to give you the opportunity to know what we're trying to do here and get any further direction from you as the Board of Commissioners.
Mr. Chair, I think that as we discussed with Secretary Cohen and Dave Richards, I think that from what I understood is that they need some sort of intent by the county to disengage, at least a letter to Dr. Cohen. And if we decide not to, then we don't have to, but at least we start the process to do that. They seem like they're very amenable to work with us, but I think for us to start, I think it would take action for you all to start the disengagement process, or at least a letter of intent to disengage.
So do we need to have a motion to directing her to send a letter of intent?
That was my understanding, yes.
All right, gentlemen, do you understand the motion that's being asked for?
Yeah, I totally understand it, and I sit on the Cardinal Board. And the idea coming out of our Health and Human Services, our local board, was to provide us max flexibility. And so at this point, if you were to ask me about where would we go, it would be VIA, which is going to happen anyhow. But if we move to send this letter, at least stipulating that we would consider disengagement for another LME MCO, that option would be open to us at a later time. Now, I will tell you the only other one that we logically could consider is Sandhills. And there's some likelihood that Sandhills is going to dissolve anyhow because it doesn't meet the threshold. We're going to have to see what transformation does. Does it meet the threshold of size? So it's the pleasure of this board.
Let me ask a question, Mr. Manager. If we authorize this letter of intent, is that also authorizing administration to disengage should you deem it beneficial to the county, or would that be another action to come before us?
That would be up to you all. Our letter would be simply administrative process, and during that time, I think that I've talked to Phyllis about setting up a committee to discuss options with all LME MCOs. Like I agree with Mr. Richardson that VIA is a very, very, very viable group, LME MCO to go with, but I think you should open up all your options.
There are so many things to be considered that the one for sure about this is we need to study it closer and have these discussions with other LME MCOs and what it would be. I can tell you that there are characteristics of each LME MCO that we need to consider. I particularly like VIA because it's more rural in character, and we would be in with a large group of counties that are rural, and collectively we would have what is in essence buying power because of the size of our budget. However, I think we need to look at other options, and I would recommend that this board consider it.
All right. Commissioner Pirtle, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, Felissa, thank you for everything that you do and your board, and you were being awful polite when you talked about behavioral health challenges and the helping the citizens that need access to those services. You was being very polite in the way you put that. In reality, there's a whole group of individuals that's not getting the services they need. The adults were not getting it 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and now their kids are not getting it. And that's led us to where we are today. I'm sure that punch list of issues that you have with our MCO is long and very detailed. If you crafted the document, there are some issues. I have concerns about the timeline. I think that this board should consider doing the letter of intent to disengage, if nothing else, to share with Dr. Cohen and the folks at the state exactly how dissatisfied we are with our current situation. And hopefully other counties across this state will join us. Even at the end of the day, if they have to walk back that letter, at least they are in some form showing their dissatisfaction with the level and quality of services that we're receiving for some subgroups of our community. And so I do think that would be the best course of action from this board. However, with that comes the responsibility of staff. When I say staff, I'm talking about your staff, mainly under your direction, is working close, because you're down in the weeds. You know the issues facing our community. Looking at your punch list, you know that there has to be a viable option, a soft place to land, if you will. And we may win, and it's not going to be a perfect fit. We know that. It's going to be, we're going to have some gains, and we're probably going to have some losses. But we got to evaluate where we are, where we want to be, and which MCO LME will meet our needs of our community, our needs as a rural community. And it may be that, we talk about the concerns we have geographically with the state divided by the geographical lines and the different catchment areas. I think it is imperative that we stay close enough to a catchment area that we can collaborate with another county if the issues arise, to do some collaboration on some projects that it may be a little bit big for us, but not too big for both of us, or three counties. But you and I have had that conversation on the side. I think that you've got a lot of work ahead of you in a short time to do it. And your deadline is, I know, fast approaching. I mean, we're already, we're 23 days left in the month. And you've got a lot of work to do. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would absolutely support the letter of intent to disengage, and make sure that everybody understands that there will be an opportunity to walk that back if my colleague says there is a viable option where we at. But I think the message that it sends to the state is just how dissatisfied we are with where we at. And I know that's not the correct English, Ms. School Board member, but it's here in the South. I hope that makes it clear.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Pirtle. Do we have a second,
I'll
gentlemen?
second.
Thank you, Commissioner Travis. We appreciate that.
Somewhere embedded in there was a motion. Thank you.
We heard it. You've got it right. Very good. Gentlemen, any further questions?
The authors of the letter, you understand? Okay.
Is that what you're seeking?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay.
Gentlemen, there's a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. County Manager, any further new business?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Thank you. That being said, we're on Commissioner comments. Commissioner Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Let me start with Ms. Warren, good stewards, and the Dan River keepers. I really appreciate everything y'all do for our rivers. That is a vital tourism for the county. And to show you how much I appreciate you, if you send me the information, I'll send you $100 to your cause. So I think that's the least I can do to help you out. So I know y'all ready to get busy. So just send me an email. I'll send it right to you. I also want to thank County Manager and his staff, especially the department heads and our employees. You know, this last year, we have really asked a lot of our employees and our department heads. And to go 12 years without a tax increase in this county, that's unheard of in some counties. And you have to commend our staff for working out a budget to make sure we don't just keep pushing money to their taxpayers. And I appreciate your staff and your department heads doing that. I also want to recognize Captain Marcus Marshall retiring. He was on our consent agenda tonight. I've had the pleasure to work with him for a long time, and he's such an excellent man. He's retiring from the Sheriff Department after 24 years, and I wish him and his family well. Maybe he'll go fishing, I hope. So I know me and him's talked about that. But with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Travis. Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, I'd like to address COVID vaccinations and encourage everybody that can hear this and those that are here to encourage other folks to go get those things. It's to the benefit of everyone. I've heard all sorts of excuses. There's some really novel ones out there. Some are political and some feigned to be scientifically supported. The bottom line is a safe operation, and the more people get this, the better off our community at large is. And you can get paid. In this county, we're another pilot program that if you haven't had the vaccination, you can get a $25 gift certificate for doing so. So encourage folks. All they have to do is get in touch with our health department here, and that number is published on our website, and that works out. Also, it's graduation time, and congratulations to the roughly 900, I believe, graduates in the county from our 4 high schools. I usually try to go to 2 or more of those. I didn't make them all this time, but it's a special time, and at least there was more personal contact in the formal graduation this year. So congratulations to all of those newly graduated students.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Purtle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to thank Pastor Kevin Dunavant from First Wesleyan Church in Eden for coming tonight and doing our invocation. I'd also like to congratulate my friend Marcus Marshall for retiring. He was citizens of Rockingham County is better because of the service he provided over the years. And if you ever have the opportunity to shake his hand, I encourage you to do it one time because your hand will disappear when you shake his hand. I also had the opportunity to attend one of the graduations over this past weekend, and it was really great to see the high school kids, and we got another group of young adults that process through our high schools. And it's good and welcome them into the and just wonder what their future holds. You know, some going to college, some going to serve our country, and some entering the workforce immediately. I'm excited for them. A couple items that we talked about tonight. I know we seem to have the manager did a great job and Mark did a great job, and there wasn't a whole lot of questions. But I understand there was a lot of work that went behind. That they put into that, and we asked a lot of questions at previous meetings that got them to where tonight was more of a somewhat seamless, but there was a whole lot of work that went into the budget and the information that Mark provided with the revow, and I certainly appreciate all the staff's time and effort in that. And then touch on something Commissioner Richardson said, that I just want to clarify that $25 gift card come from the governor's office, and we are the conduit. It's not local tax dollars. I've been asked about that.
Exactly.
It's not local tax dollars that bought those Visa gift cards. So I just want to clarify that for everybody that's listening and here tonight. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Purtle. Commissioner Berger.
Yes. I want to thank y'all for being here tonight. I want to give a special recognition to Bonnie Ferguson, Tony Reese, and Ophelia Wright here from the Board of Elections. Then we have from the school board, Paula Rakestraw, and earlier you saw our sheriff, Sam Page, was here. I don't know if he's in the hallway or if he had to leave, but I just wanted to recognize them and thank you for tuning in tonight and for all the hard work that staff put in for putting this together, putting the budget together. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Berger. I'd like to echo all the comments made. I won't repeat those, but I'd really like to thank my fellow commissioners. Thank you guys for a good meeting tonight. There's been a lot of telephone calls the last couple of weeks, a lot of things going back and forth to get things ironed out. So a lot of work went into having a smooth meeting tonight. So for that, I do appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you, gentlemen. With that, I'll state our next meeting is June 21st at 6:30 right here. And at this point, I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll be happy to make that motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.